I was born in St Helens Road in a boarding house on the corner of Brunswick Street, where the bus services come from. And my gran used to run a boarding house there, taking theatricals from the Empire and the Grand, and looking after them. We left there then when I was about 2, I think it was, and we moved to St Thomas in Penderguiney Road. And from there then, of course, we moved in 1938 to Town Hill, to Gwynfor Road. And that's where I lived in until I got married. You know, when I was 22, I met my wife and I got married.
Did you have children then?
I had a boy and a girl, Gary and Trudy. My father was during the war, he was a steel erector, and he used to go over the country. He was never called up because he was a reserved occupation. And what he done was they move in oil tanks. He'd get people to dig he was in charge of the job, and they lower the tanks in the ground and then cover them with earth to stop the German bombers. And he done that then, and he was the home guard in Mumbles Road, Swansea, you know. Well, it was a group of people that never, was in reserved occupations. And he was one of them, you know. They were armed as well with rifles and everything. And he done that until the end of the war. Well, then he was working in BP Landassi, right, and with Bewley and John. And when I left school and everything, they said I couldn't go there till I was 16 to serve my time. So that was with Campbell Connor, and he was building pipes, welding in it. And what happened then? I had to go to the employment agency, and they said, "Oh, you got to work." I left school at 15, so I went to work in the template works in Morriston, greasing the rolls and general. And when I was 16, I went to Landassi then with Campbell Connor.
Right.
And I served my time then as a boiler maker. But anyway, I was taught the trade, I worked with Motherwell Tankage and building tanks on Jersey Marine, opposite Fords. I think they built a college there now, for the students.
Right.
And then from there I went to Campbell Connor, and I worked as a coded welder in Landassi for about 4 years. And then I moved on the Gulf Oil Refinery. I started building that. I was a coded welder on that for 2.5 years. When I finished, building the trip, I got the job on the dry dock then, with Bailey's Dry Dock. I went to work with a firm that were going to board a ship in Port Albert.
Yes.
Because Bailey had lost it anyway. I went to work in there, and I worked there then until I retired.
So you were actually working in boilers, in ships?
Oh, yeah. All over the ship, on engine rooms, and mostly on, doing repairs or damage, if they had a collision or something, changing plates on the shell of the ship.
Tell me the story of the explosion.
Well, that was when I was working on the, prior to me going to the dry dock,
yes,
I worked on this Swansea pipeline.
Yes.
And as I say, it was a spigot and socket, a 66-inch pipeline, Well, inside then you've got a V, you know,
Yeah.
weld the inside, you weld the outside. And there was a hole in the top of the thing that they put the pressure in, about £400 per inch. And providing it was not leaking, you know, everything, they would seal it, the hole then.
Yeah.
And it'd, you know, carry on like that. But what it was, I was, after I say, I was inside the pipe, welding the inside, when all you know, that he found the dynamite that hadn't exploded, and he forgot about me in the pipe. I was welding, next thing I was blown. It was a terrible noise. And of course I got 2 deaf aids now.
Probably was that before health and safety really came into...
Well, you know, really I should have gone to Carmarthen and got the health and safety there involved, but they taught me out of that because I crawled out. I didn't know what I was, you know, I was in a terrible state. My language wasn't very nice. That's where I met my wife, in Paddy Pavilion, you know.
Yes.
They used to have a dance hall there every Friday and Saturday, and I used to go down there dancing with my friends, you know, and then I met my wife there.
Gosh. And there were several cinemas in Swansea as well. But...
Oh yeah, there was loads. I remember that the 2 in Morriston, and of course I remember the Rialto, you know, and the Elysium, Albert Hall.
The Odeon.
I was in the Boilermakers, and chairman and passed away, and they asked me to go president, and I became the president of Swansea Boilermakers, and we sat by working on the pipelines and what have you. I got the pleural plaques, which affects the lungs. And they were paying compensation out because it was going into asbestos. And they were paying out, you know, if you go to the hospital and you had an X-ray and they told you that you had pleural plaque. And the government would accept that, but and then they started giving out compensation. And a couple of £100 it was, you know, not a lot of money. But then, in their wisdom, the insurance companies went to the House of Lords and asked them could they stop paying it? And the House of Lords agreed. Well, then I didn't like that. So I went to the meetings with, when the Boilermakers had their yearly meetings, and I went and I got up and spoke, you know, on behalf of the sufferers, because I was a sufferer myself. And I'm still fighting now for people who have putting claims in now. And I went to Brighton. I went to the photographs there of me in Brighton with I organised, you know, busloads of people who were at Brighton in Labour Party conferences with Gordon Brown. 2006, I think it was. And the MPs come on to me and told me I'm a troublemaker, you know, like, and you know, not to do it. And I said, look, I'm fighting for people's rights. And I explained to you last time I met you about shipwrights that worked on Mulberry Harbour during the war, you know, it landed at Normandy. I said, if it weren't for them, I said, where would we be? They didn't have a port to land the ships and supplies, so they built the Mulberry Harbours for the American and the British troops. And it made no difference. And a lot of them came on to me then, and Martin Caton arranged for a meeting with me to go to London and speak, but not in Parliament, in Portculler's house, which is where they debate most of the well, whatever they're going to debate. And I went there, and I met about 42 MPs of all the parties. Not many from Wales, mind there. So, in fact, Martin Clayton wasn't there. He had a speech or something to speak. So he said to me that he was speaking in Parliament and he couldn't make the meeting. But anyway, I spoke and explained about the people that were suffering. And surely why should people who were in the Lords, who've never worked or understood what you tried to tell them, and they sided with the insurance companies. And Jack Straw then, who was he was a Justice Minister. He was there in a meeting and he listened to it. I met him before. And in his wisdom, in Parliament, I tried to see it, but I never saw it when they were discussing it, because nobody would, Swansea MPs wouldn't help me, only Martin Clayton. And he said, I had a letter that saying that they awarded £5,000 to anyone who had a claim in before the House of Lords decided to side with the insurance companies and not pay any more compensation. So everybody then who had the 5,000 was satisfied. But there was people that put claims in while they decided this, but they didn't get nothing. And that's what I've been fighting for now.
And you're still fighting?
Yeah. And that was in 2006 when we was awarded the 5,000.
Do you think there will be an award?
No. Whoever claimed that then their names were put in on the list, apparently, were people suffering from pleural plaques, that if it goes into asbestos and you died in whatever, they would pay out more money, the insurance companies would pay then, because they'd have to, because you've been awarded the 5,000. But anybody now who claimed, they wouldn't be they wouldn't get nothing, which is terrible, I think,
Was there an inquiry?
No.
No?
Not as far as I know. The only inquiry was up there when,
because
after I had the meeting with them.
There seem to be all these inquiries going on which last for years and years and years.
Oh, yeah, it's still going. Oh, well, whether it's going on now, I don't know. They don't want to know. They don't want to know.
So will you keep fighting, or will you, or have you?
Well, I'm 92 now.
I know.
But I haven't given in. Have you got? I went to see that well, she's been there now, the check, since Martin Clayton finished.
Right.
And I forget her name now. I have showed you the photograph, and she said she'd do the fighting, but I've never heard her speaking about asbestos. And also I went to the Senate, and I spoke there, asking them for support, but I never heard nothing. I sent a letter to nearly every MP up there in Cardiff, and no replies. About 2 replies I had.
It's very sad, isn't it?
It's terrible. They're full of remorse for you and sorry for you, but they do nothing. They just fed about it. There's one now, he's gone up now in the Labour Party. I wrote to him. He's a minister now with them, from Bridgend, I think he is. And he was the one that never gave me a reply to my letters. So I got no time for any of them.
No, I can understand. It's been good talking to you, Brian. Now, one final question. You've lived a long, long time. What message would you give to people who are like unemployed and under 25?
Is to try to be independent like I did, and work hard. But there again, if you try to save and buy a house or save a few pounds for your old age, the government then is after the money.